Nobody has any time. Nobody really likes to practice. Nobody knows what to practice. And there's a million people online telling people how to practice. First of all, if you don't know what you're trying to do, practicing it isn't going to work. So if I said to you, Fred, you're a new golfer, you want to learn golf, and you're like, I'm just going to try it on my own. I'm going to go to the range for the next month with a 7-iron, 6 hours a day. I don't think you're going to get better at golf as fast as you would if you took an hour lesson with 2 drills that you then did for maybe 10 minutes twice a week.
Hi, this is Eric Amel from Traverse City, Michigan. I play at the Grand Traverse Resort, home of the Bear, Wolverine, and Spruce golf courses. And this is episode number 911.
If you don't know what to improve, practicing isn't going to help. With our new guest, Sarah Stone.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Sarah.
Hi, Fred.
How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Happy to be here. Excited to get to know you and spend some time with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited to be catching you on the end of a vacation time, so you're nice and relaxed. That's good for you. I saw a video of you doing a putting drill online, and I'm like, oh, you're a good communicator. I want to talk to you some more.
Thank you for saying that. I think that comes from being a teacher for, I think I've done this 22 years now.
You lost track?
Yeah. 19 to, I think it's 22 years.
And what was your path, and why did you end up being a golf instructor? I mean, how did you decide this is what you wanted to do?
So I went to college to play tennis and ended up on the golf team because the tennis practices were 4:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. 5 days a week, and golf practice was after class at 4 o'clock for 2 hours. So I thought maybe that might be a little bit more doable with a social schedule and education. But and then I got the director of the PGM program, which is a professional golf management program. You go to school and become a golf professional certified, and then you get an actual degree in marketing, a bachelor's. He was like, you're a golf pro, you're not a tennis pro. I got you a job interview at Westchester Country Club to go work for John Kennedy in Rye, New York, and it's yours to lose. So I went and spent the day there, got hired, and that kind of started my career in golf.
Wow. So when did you start playing golf? I mean, did you start when you were a kid playing tennis and golf all at the same time?
So I sound like I grew up somewhere where there was a lot of that going on. I grew up in a small farm town in the very, very southeast corner of Michigan, and I played all the sports. And I picked up golf because I went to a camp that had it as an activity, and the counselor told my mom, this is when I was in 7th grade. He was like, she's very special with this sport. I still don't remember this happening. My parents tell me it did.
As a parent, I know how these stories go. I remember these, and they're like, what are you talking about?
And so anyway, the guy actually asked for my autograph, and he showed my mom. He said, she's going to be famous, and I want to have her, so as a kid, that's kind of like you're a big fish in a really small pond, and then you go somewhere and you're a small fish in a big pond. So, and I didn't think it was going to be golf. I didn't know what it was going to be, if it was going to be sports, but I knew I would be a teacher. I really felt like I had that in me.
Interesting. And have you ever played competitively?
Oh, yes. I played in college, and then when I graduated, I played in the med section the whole, I think 19 years I was there. I actually won the Player of the Year for the women in that section in 2012.
Congratulations.
So it's nice. They have a nice thanks. I'm a little proud of that because that was while working full time. But and for people like that I write for, which is why I enjoy talking, communicating, and writing about golf, is I have a very busy schedule myself with my work. How can I help my students like intentionally practice correctly so that the time that they use is valuable to getting better?
I love that you said practice correctly. Define that for me. Go deeper with that.
So I think practicing golf has just it covers so many things. I think if you practice correctly means, first of all, if you don't know what you're trying to do, practicing it isn't going to work. So if I said to you, Fred, you're a new golfer, you want to learn golf, and you're like, I'm just going to try it on my own. I'm going to go to the range for the next month with a 7-iron, 6 hours a day. I don't think you're going to get better at golf as fast as you would if you took an hour lesson with 2 drills that you then did for maybe 10 minutes twice a week. That's an observation. I haven't done any studies on it, but this is something I've kind of started to put together in my brain is nobody has any time. Nobody really likes to practice. Nobody knows what to practice. And there's a million people online telling people how to practice.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I think it does. I think it's quite powerful because I see, I play with guys and we're all hacks out there. We're all struggling and trying to figure it out. And like a friend of mine who has needs a lot of work on his swing, and he's like, okay, I'm starting to see a difference. And I'm like, I watched him play, and I'm like, I'm glad that you do, because I'm seeing the exact same thing going on. You're lifting your body, you're lifting up, you're turning your head, you have your hands way behind the ball. I mean, I'm like, I'm not going to give you a lesson. That's not what I do, but I've noticed that your swing is pretty similar like it was before your lessons. But what I love about it is that he's continuing to take lessons. He didn't just go and take 1 or 2 lessons and go, okay, I got this, and now I'm moving on. I think that's the hard part.
I think that's the most frustrating aspect of being a coach. And I have a lot of friends that coach, and we talk often about this, is the expectation of improvement with very, very little bit of time put in. And there's a great Tiger Woods video where he talks about working with Butch, and Butch made him rehearse this move over and over and over for hours. We're talking about the best player in the world taking over a year, working as hard as he did to change a pattern. And then we work with wonderful people that have other kinds of jobs that are trying to play this on the weekday, thinking a motor pattern or a movement change. Like to your point, you don't even see anything different in your buddy's golf swing. I mean, it's so hard to change that. And so when I say practice correctly, I'm like, well, what other area of your game, Fred, could we improve that would actually lower your score? Is it going to be your actual full swing? Maybe not. Maybe we pick chipping or short game shots, or teach you about how to hit a bunker shot correctly or with a different concept. Like my putting drill that you brought up, that was very nice of you to say. That was just an idea of like, how would you even warm up to go play golf on the putting green? Because I watch people do stuff. I'm like, Fred, what are you doing? You're like, I don't know, just putting around. I'm like, but what's it going to do for you? I don't know. Like they're not even taking in information that they're getting.
And my friends think I'm obsessive because I have all my little routines that I do before a round of golf. And I'm like, in the past, I would get to the course an hour ahead of time to get warmed up. Yeah. And now I find myself getting there like 90 minutes ahead of time, because now I want to start working more on not just hitting a bucket of balls or just putting. I want to work on the short game for a while. And if they have a bunker that I can hit a couple of shots out of just to get a feel for this, I'm spending more and more time. My long day of golf has gotten even longer now.
Have you noticed a difference in your scoring or in anything in your game by the length of time that you're spending previous to your round?
Great question. I would say yes. And that's compared to a couple of times where I was running late and I just said, okay, I'm just going to take a couple swings and do a couple putts and then just step up to the first tee. So I have a better sense of what I'm doing that day or how it feels. And I'm obviously a lot looser than if I just walk up to the first tee. And I have friends who I don't want to waste any shots. I'm just going to walk up to the first tee. And I'm like, what does that mean, waste shots?
Yeah, I think there's that fine line of expectation management. Like if you go and you put 90 minutes in before each of your round and you feel like you should, which should such a bad word, but shoot a certain score because you did more stuff to get ready than your buddy did. And then he just goes out and wails away at it. And you guys come off the course shooting around the same score. And then people get frustrated with that. It's like expectation management of sometimes like if there's an area of your game that you don't like, maybe you don't warm that up because you don't want to know that it's going to happen again or that you're going to see it happen again. So that when you step into that, say we'll call it a bunker shot, you're not like, oh my God, I tried 4 of these on the range and I hit every one into the trees. And now I got to, like changing the mindset. And so that's what I was wondering what happened for you is if that 90 minutes is giving you a fair expectation of your score, the time in versus the product.
Yeah. Let's take a time out and I'll follow up and tell you how obsessive I get after the round as well. We'll be back right after this. Sarah, now that I'm using Arcos on each of my clubs so I can track my shots and stuff, I'll go and after the round, I'll sit and look at my notes. I'll look at the round and where my problems were. And to me, I look for where did I have trouble today? Where did I have trouble in my last round? So that's something that I can go and work on. I don't want to it's like, oh, well, I'm putting inside of 10 feet well today. So I'm just going to keep putting inside of 10 feet. It's like, no. What happened between 10 and 20 feet? Is it distance control? Is it my line? My short game, am I chunking the ball? Is it checking too quickly? Little things like that. Those are the things that I find that I want to work on, or the things that aren't working on my round.
Yeah, I think Arcos has been a huge game changer for information for the student and for the teacher or their coach, because oftentimes we'll get people come up and like, I just couldn't hit my driver today. And I'm like, okay, Fred, let's go through your round. And then we're looking at the data that you're getting is measured in a way that you might not take the time to do yourself. And it helps us as a team figure out where do you need to spend your time, right? That's really, really good information to be able to have now, instead of how many fairways did you hit, how many greens did you hit, and how many putts did you have? Like, that's archaic now. It doesn't matter anymore. How far are you putting your first putt from? That's better information for me, instead of I had 36 putts. Okay, that doesn't really help me,
Exactly. And I know that the amount of putts that I have in a round definitely impacts my scoring. And so if I have, I'm trying to get my putts to 30 to 32, 33 putts around. And if I can get there, I'm going to have obviously better scores than I'm doing 34 to 38 putts in a round, which definitely happens as well. So that kind of information always helps. It's interesting. You brought this up during the conversation so far, and it's something that I actually wrote down of something I wanted to discuss with you today, and that is what frustrates you about the state of golf instruction today.
Oh boy.
Here's a can of worms I can open up, huh?
That might be bigger than worms. It's interesting. So I just drove 7 hours home from upstate New York, and I got the opportunity to catch up with some friends in the business, particularly teachers. And we always talk about this when we get some time, but there's a couple things. One, the idea of the 30-minute fix or the hour that everything is done. Doctors' offices aren't run that way. Dentist offices aren't run that way. It's the idea that Fred can come to me in 30 minutes. Like, I get this all the time. Can I just get a quick putting lesson with you at 2:00? I'm like, for a half an hour. And I wish that could be a more expensive lesson than a 2-hour on the golf course with Fred. So the time is number one, that there's time required for the skill to get better from the teacher to coach. If the message is good and the information is understood, then the lesson should end, if that makes sense. The second frustrating part, I think, is the understanding that there are teachers out there who spend their entire career studying this information, just like a doctor, a surgeon, an engineer, a writer, an artist. And I don't know if the perception of what we do is put on the same level as that. I think sometimes when you're at a country club, this is the other, what's the difference between the kid behind the counter that's 27 years old and then someone like myself who's made this their career? Some people don't see a difference in the lesson. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, oh, all golf pros teach golf. They run tournaments. They fold shirts. It's like, yeah, but there are there's actually a lot of us that made this our work, not just our job. And I think that trying to change that perception, I think, is also very frustrating.
Is there passion being lost by golf instructors? Are they losing their passion because of the frustration they're having with the demands from their clientele? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I don't think I think the frustration that's going on is there's a lot of people who are learning and playing golf. There's a lot of information out there. I mean, you can Google bunker shots and you could be gone for 3 days down the rabbit hole of that. I think the biggest frustration that my friends and I share with each other is just the understanding of time and work and what the expectation management, I really think, is what circles back to. But in the business, I think what you're going to see is so many of us are constantly talking about how to change that because we're changing human behavior as golf professionals. So we're like, how else can we make this better for us? Like time and money.
Yeah.
And quality. But I don't think people are frustrated and losing passion. I think they're trying to figure out a way to make it still fun for themselves, at least the people I'm getting to spend time with.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And make it get some reward out of it as well, because again, I think the concept of giving a half-hour lesson should be more expensive than a 2-hour on-course lesson. And I think that's really an interesting concept, because of the hundreds of golf instructors that I've talked to over the years, it seems like you'll hear more of people going, "Oh, I'm playing in a charity tournament this weekend, so fix my game."
Yeah.
When's the last time you played? About 6 months ago. And one of my favorite lines is somebody said, someone came in for a lesson and he goes, "So how long have you been playing?" Goes, "I've been playing most of my life, like 45 years. And he goes, "And how often do you play?" He goes, "Yeah, once a month." He goes, "So you've been playing for 6 months, right?"
Yeah, Exactly. The nice thing too is there's data now for us to turn to people and say, your TrackMan numbers say this, or your Arcos numbers tell us this story. So you can help the students see it better, I think, than before. They'd have to really trust you and be like, "You're wrong," or "You're right." Now we can say, "Here's the actual piece of paper with the data on it, and this is what it's telling both of us." That's not biased.
Right. And do people understand the data? Sometimes when a couple of times that I'll go and have an actual lesson. Most of the time I'm just talking about it. But when I have a lesson and they'll explain something, or if I'm watching someone take a lesson online, I'll watch a video on YouTube or something. And it seems like the instructor's giving information that the person doesn't have a clue of what they're talking about, but they're sitting there nodding their head going, "Yeah, sure, right." But they can't translate it. So as soon as they go home, and hopefully they go and practice what they've been taught, but they're like, "I forgot what that meant."
So my theory on that is that the teacher or the coach, I think we cross into a little bit of coach, is being more curious. Like, instead of, "Oh, this person has an open club face and they come across it and down, and so the ball starts to the left and goes to the right, and they don't prefer that result to happen." So they have these ideas in their head about why it happens, and the teacher has ideas in their heads on how to change it. But if you don't speak the same language, I think that's why they go home and go, "I don't know what they said. They just said something about maybe put the ball more back in my stance or something. I don't know why." So that's where I try to change it with my students, because we talk about this as coaches. We're like, how do you not give the same lesson over and over to Fred Green on Thursday at 11? And I'm like, well, if you're doing that, you're not doing your job, because if Fred Green's coming back with the same issue each time, you haven't done a good enough, I think you haven't done a good enough job explaining to Fred why this is happening and how to change it.
Well, then your question would also be to Fred Green. Did you practice this since our last lesson? "Well, no, I played a couple times." "No, I didn't ask you if you've played. I asked if you've practiced." Yeah, well, I hit a bucket of balls before my round." "Did you practice?" I mean, there's a big disconnect between warming up and practicing.
for sure. I would agree with that. But I think a lot of what I've seen in my career is people just don't understand what they're trying to do with what they have in their hand. Like, that's what I mean about the practicing. It's like, if you can explain it in a way that would resonate with the person, with using some physics and geometry, simply explain to them that they can make adjustments faster than just repeating or creating a new pattern, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Another time out. I'm going to throw a line of questioning at you when we come back that I hope stumps you, but I'm sure that you'll find a way to answer it. We'll be right back after this. All right, Sarah, what do you, if you can define this, what generally do you see are common issues with, let's say, a 20 to a 25 handicap?
I
And
would
you can probably see
say,
where I'm going with this.
I know. I wonder who we're talking about. I would say the 20 to 22 handicappers would be, and I know that this is always what people say, is short game work, 30 to 50 yards, and then general putting concepts, speed control, learning how to read a green, and then knowing how to like start the ball on line. Those would lower the handicap faster than full swing practice, I would say, majority of the time. 20 to 22 you guys don't have a wild miss that's costing you like 6 to 10 shots off the tee every time. There's usually some little thing in there that would be a little bit finer of a detail to polish than something full swing. But
okay. So,
what was your question?
Yeah, no, and short game putting. What I was going to say is that I've always believed, and that's really the basis of how I started the show of Golf Smarter, is that if you understand core strategy, right, and you understand how to navigate your way around a golf course, you can probably lower your scores quicker than if you're just working on your swing mechanics, right? But I've also found that short game and putting is huge to helping you bring down your index a bit. So now let's go to a 15 to 20 handicap. Are we in the same issues here of short game and putting, or do we have other issues that people who have now they're getting into the 90s, right, on a regular basis?
I would say no. That group could be something different, where they might have a wildly different miss than they're used to seeing that creates a spin out. So someone who hits blocks all day all of a sudden hits a snap hook on the 10th tee and doesn't know how to adjust for the snap hook, and then just kind of tries to work around it for a while. Like the better players that I work with, the high level amateurs, don't seem to understand how to play a ball opposite of the miss that they have. So maybe they are a drawer of the golf ball, and then a hook gets introduced somewhere in the round and they have no idea how to fix it. So then you teach them how to fade it, if that makes sense. So adding maybe another tool to their toolkit of playing to adjust for the miss that sneaks up that just creates the whole spin out.
Interesting. So for somebody who has a natural fade to their ball, how difficult is it to teach them to have the variety of shots? I mean, we're talking about a 20 to 25 handicap, 15 to 20. I'm hitting it straight, and I have a natural fade. I've never been able to figure out how to get a nice tight draw going, although I do occasionally have a snap hook where I've even been keeping track lately. It's like, okay, what shots did I just lose a ball on, right? And it always seems to be the driver with that snap hook, right? And just pull it way too hard. What does it take to learn how to adjust it so you can, use your natural fade if you have it, or I need to hit a draw here, I'm going to go do that?
I mean, I think of it as the way that I explain it to people is it's like a recipe for something that maybe you make at home, like a cake or a brownie mix or something. There's pieces that have to be there for this ball flight to happen. And if they're not there, it's not going to happen.
Oh.
So fades are typically the direction the club is traveling is more left for a righty than the face is open.
Uh-huh.
Or so what's happening with you is you're probably swinging a little left with a little bit of an open face. And then when the face squares to the little left, it goes really far left, but feels amazing and looks great. It's just nowhere near where you wanted it to go. And then when it curves slightly into the right, that means your face is just opening a little bit because your brain's going, Fred, we're trying to actually hit it over here. So we have to adjust something. So to teach you how to hit a tight draw would probably just be more of a whiteboard conversation about the ball flight laws, and then which pieces in your recipe or what ingredients aren't there to make that happen. And then there's the playing golf with it, which I think is the hardest part, is understanding it. But then like if you play at a same golf course, which is amazing. If you're a member at a club and you get to play there all the time, it's great. But you're always going to have scar tissue on certain holes. So no matter how much we work on trying to get you to hit a draw, if you have a pole shot that happens on, like, say, the 12th hole at your club every Saturday during the club championship, I don't think I can get that to go away forever because you have history with that hole. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it absolutely makes sense. But it's also the time when it's like, okay, every time I play this hole, I hit it in the water. Okay, so I'm not going to hit that club anymore on this hole. I'm going to change clubs. I'm going to try to change my strategy, even if it's just a bit, but I got to get into a different mindset on this hole and stop thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, and like going back to your snap hook or your slice, or I think it goes back to, I think for you or for most people, it's just, well, what's actually happening and what do you believe is happening? Because sometimes those don't actually line up at all.
Right.
Like if your ball always falls slightly to the right, you're going to aim a little left all the time. And then progressively as the round goes on, that's probably going to continue to happen. And then for you, Fred, your club face finally gets squared to the direction that you're aimed. And now you're nowhere near where you wanted to go.
I'm glad you find it funny. That's usually the...
No, because I listen to this like 12 hours a day. I'm like, all right, well, let's talk about where the spill started. Like when did the oil leak happen, and then how do we get back to fixing that?
Right. So let's move down to these handicap players and what it is that is missing in their game generally when they're at that level. Like if we go down to a 10 to a 15, right?
Yeah, I think 10 to 15s, there's probably a skill they just don't know how to do. Like maybe hit a short bunker shot, maybe hit a high lofted shot out of like a 30-yard shot over a bunker. Maybe they don't strategize correctly, with recovery shots. I think that's usually that might be the range where those sorts of things of like, let's teach you another skill to get yourself back into play faster than 3 shots down the rough with your hybrid because you think you're supposed to use that there.
Do you prefer giving on-course lessons as opposed to range lessons?
It's not a matter of preference. It's probably a matter of opportunity. Our club is fairly busy, and sometimes I feel the higher the handicap, the more they want to be on the golf course. And I feel like they're not the ones that benefit from on course as much as if they don't know how to move a ball forward and have a repeatable pattern that they can have some sort of idea about what's going to happen. It's not very much fun to get them on the golf course.
Right.
But a higher, like a lower handicap, like a 5 or a 10 or lower, that could be strategy of what side of the tee box are you putting your tee in to suit the shape of the hole and the shot that you want to hit, stuff like that.
And do you find that makes a difference depending on what side of the tee box that you're on?
Oh yeah. If you think of putting, right to left breaking putts, we aim more right. So the ball curves back towards the hole. The same idea would be with the tee box. So if you hit a little fade, I'd put you all the way on the right side of the tee box and have you aim down left center, and then your ball would curve back into play instead of out of play.
Sure. It's kind of like bowling. I just remember,
exactly.
Right? If you've got that 10 pin sitting in the far right corner, you're not going to line up on the far right corner. You're going to go on the opposite side and make a bigger angle, give yourself more opportunity there.
Yeah, bowling.
right?
I haven't thought of it. That's a great analogy, actually, for that. That'll help me teach some people who probably understand bowling.
Woohoo!
Thank you, Fred.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm gonna. All right, let's take another time out.
Okay.
I'm too much fun. Let's see if we can make this work. We'll be right back. Well, I truly hope you enjoyed last week's episode with Jim Waldron because, as we've discussed so many times, Jim has been featured on Golf Smarter since our earliest days. That's because he's such a knowledgeable and insightful teacher, especially when it comes to our focus to game improvement, which is the mind-body connection. Well, this week on Golf Smarter Mulligans is the first of 2 episodes with Jim from February 2012, and this one's called Make Sure You're Ready to Take the Next Shot.
For the average golfer, they need more distance, and so the shot shape that I teach most of my average golfer students is slight draw, with all of their clubs starting around a 5 or 6 iron, all the way through driver. And the longer the club, the more of a draw. So they might draw it somewhere between 5 and 10 yards with their driver, and they may only draw it 1 to 2 yards with a 6 iron. If they have cavity back game improvement clubs, which most of my students do these days, starting right around a 7 iron, they're going to go with the swing shape I'm teaching them. The ball won't draw, it'll go pretty, or maybe very little. It'll basically go straight from about a 7 iron to a lob wedge. If they play with forged blades, it'll still draw a little bit. Maybe not a lob wedge or a sand wedge, but starting on a pitching wedge, they might get a little baby 1 yard draw if they play with forged blades, because they curve the ball more easier. Game improvement clubs are designed not to curve the ball.
That's episode 227, the first of 2 conversations featuring our own Yoda of Yips, Jim Waldron, from BalancePointGolf.com on our sister podcast, Golf Smarter Mulligans, being released this Friday morning. So if you're a fan of Golf Smarter's content, then don't miss the chance to get 2 episodes every week. That's Golf Smarter, the longest-running golf podcast, and Golf Smarter Mulligans, episodes from our archives that revisits the best of Golf Smarter. They're both available for free from wherever you're listening right now. All right, Sarah, so now we've gone through the various handicap levels and what it takes to get them to improve bit by bit, because it's not a quick process. I mean, it takes a while to go from a 15 to a 10. It takes a long time to do that. So who do you find is easier to teach to get to that next level? The guy who's the person who is a high handicapper and just trying to get to the next level, just trying to break 90, or the skilled golfer who's a 6 and wants to get to a 3, which is a huge leap in consistency. What have you found?
So you can do more for the person who has, the higher the handicap goes, the more you can do for them. I think the gains are more significant, right? You teach a 36 handicapper how to putt better, and they could go down to an 18 pretty quickly, maybe, right? But I have this conversation with single digit people. I'm like, what are we doing? How are we measuring your success this year? They're like, well, I'm a 5 and I want to be a 2. I'm like, okay, well, that's really, really hard to do. Let's just start with the idea that moving someone that has the lower the handicap to move them a number 2 is significantly harder. So I don't know that I have a preference, because we don't really measure the success in our teaching based on handicap lowering or raising, which would be a nice way to do it. But I always like to work with people who are interested in learning, whether it's a 7-year-old all the way up to a 90-something-year-old. I would always want to work with someone who's open-minded. So that would not be relative to handicap. That might be just relative to the person itself.
Interesting.
That's my favorite type of student, is an open-minded student. Curious. I'm into this being curious thing.
Yeah, so am I. That's why I'm still doing this podcast after 900 plus episodes. I'm still curious, like, how do we do that? How do we do that? So let's see. I once heard somebody say, and I'd love your hit on this, trying to eliminate doubles is easier than trying to make more birdies.
I mean, that would be based on handicap as well, going back to the kind of the flow that we're going with, like, 20 handicappers. I mean, a 20 handicapper is not going to have very many opportunities to make a birdie. Then maybe a 5 handicapper would have a tremendous amount of opportunity. So, yeah, I would say that might vary skill level based. I mean, I don't know if you would agree with that, but I kind of feel like the variability there, the opportunity, because sometimes putting for a bogey as a 36 handicapper for the first time ever on a hole that you hit it over water feels the same as trying to make a birdie to shoot 65 to a single digit. The value of that emotional experience.
Right.
I've never done that, but
never shot a 65. What's your all-time low score?
I shot 67.
Have
67.
You really? Was it tournament or just fun golf?
Not tournament, no, just golf at the Bears Club down in Jupiter, Florida, but was pretty happy with that. I think tournament, I think I've only ever been 2 under par.
It's amazing to
Nothing
watch.
Huge, but
yeah, it's amazing to watch on the pros on television, and it's also very frustrating because it's like I just want to see them screw up. It's like I love when they have bad holes. Like, yeah, they play like we do because this,
yeah.
Well, just you're going to have a bogey on this one, or you didn't have any bogeys this round. It's like, how do you do that, right? I don't get.
Well,
that.
I think that's hard because we watch golf. Yeah, we watch golf recreational for fun, and then we only see the good shots. The only time they pan in on someone about to do something, they're either going to do something amazing or it's going to be the worst thing you've ever seen in your life. There's no in between on TV.
Yeah. It's
So you watch it, and it's pretty crazy. And I think people forget they're like emotional people too. This is their job, and they're going to screw up. I mean, look at what Lucas Glover's done in the last 2 weeks. I mean, back-to-back events.
Amazing.
He's 44, I think, and he's overcome some serious stuff with his putting, and then to come and do what he did. It's really neat to see, and you want to root for it because they're humans.
Yeah. Well, I've been rooting big time for him the last couple of weeks, mainly because he's using a Lab Golf putter, the Mez 1 putter. And I've been using a Lab Golf putter for a while. And Sam Hahn from Lab Golf has been on the show multiple times. And so when I see more and more people playing with that putter on TV, it's like it's only going to be demanding for him. And I'm just so excited for him. So, yeah. And that he did have, they keep talking about his putting yips, but they're not talking about the putter. Except, of course, if it's a major name brand, then they'll bring up, he's playing the new TaylorMade. He's playing with the new Scotty Cameron.
Yeah.
But they're not, check out that Lab Golf putter, folks. It's working for them. I mean,
yeah,
Adam Scott's using it too. And there's a couple more guys out there now.
That's some good street cred for the Lab Golf for sure. Seeing that back-to-back victory from someone who struggled with some putting professionally. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's really cool. We talk about shooting low scores, and a couple weeks ago, Bryson shot that 58. And in his press conference, he talked about when he was young, they would play from the front tees just to try to shoot 60. And I thought that was he says, once you get comfortable doing it that way, then you start moving back and you can do it. So I emailed a friend of mine who we're very competitive. We play very closely together, 1 or 2 strokes. We're always tied by the 17th hole. It's crazy. And I asked him, do you think you could shoot par if you played from the front tees? And he's like, well, which course, which tees? And I'm like, that sounds like a no. If you have to ask questions like that sounds like a no. But I want to challenge him. It's like, let's go out and play the front tees and see how low. If we can shoot par, I think he'd be too embarrassed. I think people would like.
Well, there's the ego thing that's always.
Oh my God, the ego thing. It's like, wait a minute, let's just give it a shot and see what happens. Yeah, but people are looking. Why are you guys playing from there? It's because we want to have low scores. I play from the white tees regularly, and that's because I don't feel like I need to make golf harder than it already is. golf's hard enough. Why do I have to keep moving back?
I would say that that's probably the biggest, most frustrating part of the coaching standpoint is everyone's playing the wrong tees for how far they hit their tee shot. In their perception of their total yardage off the tee and what is mathematically they're able to do with their golf swing usually aren't close. I hit it 280. I'm like, you don't hit it 280 unless you hit a sprinkler head, and then your superintendent has it. But yeah, I mean, the Bryson thing was very good for golf because it helped it gave it a narrative to continue to have the conversations with your junior golfers and then your everyday golfers, even not necessarily every day, but the ones that are the guys that are trying to play or women that are trying to play in a mid-am maybe. They played college golf and then they got into the workforce and now they're a member at a club and they want to get back to playing competitively. It's like, Bryson, that's a good conversation for people to have now. It's like, oh, maybe we should put our kids all the way up on the family tees until they break par 3 times and then move them back to the forward tees and then move them back. But it's hard to talk parents and kids into doing stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the ego thing.
But it's good. It's good to feel comfortable.
Well, yeah, I think that would be the point. That would be the point. The only way to play good golf that I've found is when you're comfortable and confident. Confidence, it makes all the difference in the world. If you're shaking when you're standing over a putt, you ain't gonna make it.
Yeah. Or you might hit it poorly and it'll go in, but it's probably not going to be your most confident looking putt you've made all day.
Yeah, exactly. Or the guy who's like, yeah, I hit my drive 280. No, you may have hit your drive 280 once downhill, hitting the cart path. I mean, but you don't hit your drives 280. Right? And that's something like we talked about Arcos earlier. It's like I'm finding out. It's like, oh, I guess, all right, well, I'm not averaging as far as I thought I was off the tee. Okay, I better adjust that.
Well, that's what it is. I think also for anyone listening that plays, it's like it's an average your yardage, total carry. Like how far you hit it in the air. It's not your best 7-iron you've ever hit in your entire life on the driving range that flew in the air 160 yards. You might actually hit some 125. So you have to start looking at, you're talking about scoring. It's like, how far does your ball travel in the air? Not how far does it go completely until it comes to a stop. That's a big difference as well.
Oh, no, you just burst a bubble. Gee, thanks.
I'm sorry.
This has been awesome, Sarah. Now, you work at a private course in the D.C. area. Do you give lessons to only members, or do you also allow people to reach out to you?
So I'm happy to have people reach out for help, maybe some online stuff. They keep me fairly busy there at this facility. We have a very large membership group, and I'm into my 3rd year right now. And so trying to find time to help people outside of that club right now it's not really in the cards, but doing stuff on my own or general questions or even some online Coach Now stuff, I'm happy to help with. And I'm going to be doing a lot more with some golf.com stuff. So you'll see some stuff coming through via email and on their website for sure.
Yeah, well, that's how I found it.
And I have a nice Instagram, my Instagram account, which is it's actually was designed to help people like yourself who'd be like, I can't remember what you said the other day. I'm like, well, here's the drill. It's on my Instagram account. Go find it. Because I was just like constantly just sending the same information to like 12 people. So that one's Stone Golf Sense. And that has a lot of stuff on there. Books about golf, maybe different little ideas on how to fix something, how to hold the club differently to help the ball flight. There's just a lot of content on there related to understanding golf that might help some of the people listening as well.
Awesome. So that's Stone Golf Sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
On Instagram?
Yeah. That would probably be the easiest place to find me for help or, or if you're in this area, I'm happy to, like I said, if there's time. Sometimes we have some slow months here, depending on the weather.
Yeah, right. That's when they're not coming out to play golf. Sarah, this has been a lot of fun. And thanks so much for your insights and sharing your history with us. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoy your work online, too. So keep up the great work.
Thank you, Fred. Thanks for the opportunity to get to know you and spend some time with you, too. Great questions, and I really enjoyed having to think through some of these answers.
Now, back in episode 900, you finally got to meet my wife, Joanne, and hear all about the book she just wrote and published. She's doing a lot of bookstore, library, and book club talks lately, and this coming week is no different. So if you've read the book By Accident, a memoir of letting go, which also has a lot about me and our relationship in there, I'd like to update you on some upcoming talks that she's doing. And if you're in the area, please come by. Say hi to both of us. I'd love to meet you. On Thursday, September 7th, this is 2023, we'll be at Zibby's Bookstore in Santa Monica. And then we'll be in Annie Bloom's Books in Portland, Oregon on September 21st. Then back to California for an appearance at Murphy's Library up in the Gold Country of Northern California in Murphy's, California on September 28th. In October, we'll be in Baltimore, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., where she's going to be speaking to various book clubs. She's been doing that a lot, too, and appearing on a lot of podcasts. If I didn't mention your city and you're interested in learning more, please visit Joanne-Green, that's Joanne-Greene, Joanne-Green.com to get the full story. I do want to welcome this week's Golf Smarter ambassador, Eric Amel of Traverse City, Michigan. Like so many of the Golf Smarter ambassadors before him, Eric chose to receive a link to Tony Manzoni's Lost Fundamental video as his free thank you gift. And what about you? We'd all like to hear where you live, play, and listen to Golf Smarter. Send me an email, and you too can receive a free gift of your choice just for participating. Gifts include Tony Manzoni's video, a box of Odin X1 balls with a Golf Smarter logo, or a glove and glove storage compartment from redroostergolf.com. I'm going to leave a link in the show notes and today's blog post so you can look up all of those items. Please write to me and I'll get back to you with some instructions of what to do and what to say. Of course, send your request to golfsmarterpodcast@gmail.com or click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com. And please follow us at Golf Smarter on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter to see our ongoing posts of videos and articles. For the last 3 months, we've been putting up 4 videos every week, and we're going to continue to do that for another full year to give exposure to these incredible instructors that we have and let you follow and get a hint of what's coming up on future episodes. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for upcoming episodes, please click on the Hey Fred button when you visit golfsmarter.com.